Welcome to the Amanda Anderson Show. The following program explores life from a pro-life perspective. The information shared is for educational and advocacy purposes and does not constitute legal or medical advice.
The science is clear. The pro-life movement is rooted in medical reality. This truth is silenced by the media and political spectrum, so people think that this truth is hateful in some form. But in truth, it is not. Welcome to the Amanda Anderson Show. Brought to you by Pro-Life, Pro-Reality. Welcome to the Amanda Anderson Show. I'm your host, Amanda Anderson, and I am here in the studio with my co-host, Cassidy Martin.
Good to be here, Amanda.
Today, June 24, 2026, is the 4th anniversary of the day the most famous case on this issue, which was rooted in falsehood and lies from its very inception, was finally struck down.
Roe v. Wade was never about protecting people, because if an abortion was deemed successful, a child would always be murdered as a direct result of it.
And what is crazy, is the same people politically who would tell you that they are trying to fight for the quote, good of every American or the freedom for all Americans, conveniently disregard the scientific fact of when life begins, which makes their own statement false, while they very likely fail to acknowledge reality, or don't even realize the absurdity of their own statement. Let us begin with a large lie told by the media, calling a pregnancy a quote, potential life.
This baseless statement is a false narrative, spoken by someone who is not educated in what they are arguing.
Anyone who seeks scientific facts from an unbiased source will see the absurdity of this.
And they call the pro-life side intolerant or hateful.
Yeah, last time I checked, intentionally not telling someone the truth because their feelings are different than the truth, is what is truly hateful. Roe was never about the decision of whether or not to bear a child, because if you are pregnant, the bear part of the equation has already begun.
It is a simple biological fact. And things like the ultrasound and sonogram should stand to prove it.
But they don't, because things have been twisted around so many times.
It is so hard to keep a straight face when talking to someone who believes that, just due to the sheer absurdity of it. And their act of calling anyone who disagrees with them the ones who need help is just comical.
Viability should make no difference in the case of abortion.
The pro-choice movement is a carefully constructed fiction designed to tell anyone who actually believes in scientific reality that they are wrong.
The case of viability is wrongly used as if it is a complete justification for an abortion.
One of the largest cases aside from Roe v. Wade is Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Casey ruled that before viability, the state could not place a so-called undue burden on the decision to have an abortion.
A burden on someone deciding something of that magnitude, which really comes down to whether or not to commit murder.
That is not a burden, that is a reality check.
Any abortion being called safe is a lie, because nothing safe would always result in someone's death.
Something being done properly, or as intended, that resulted in someone's death was called murder, the last time I checked.
Exactly, things have been twisted around so many times by political figures and news channel talking points that the people who are being led astray are the ones who believe they are informed. Nothing that kills can rightly be called healthcare. This is extremely dangerous because this cloaking of vocabulary is changing people's minds on this issue at a rapid pace.
True healthcare would see the child in the womb as a person and care for both mother and child together. This is the side that is truly backed by science and reality.
Those who are calling the overturn of Roe a harm or harmful really lack the knowledge of what harm means.
The true harm of this was the passing of Roe v. Wade itself. It was grounded in deception and a lack of education from the very beginning.
People almost definitely lacked the education on the scientific reality of when new life begins, to be able to stand by in support of Roe. Calling abortion freedom is a massive lie and a toxic ideology that is rooted in deception.
It is grounded in relying on people who will just blindly follow a political party's lead, question nothing, and never seek out what is actually the truth for themselves.
If more people questioned the members of the Democratic Party on this issue, it would likely result in far more pro-life activists.
The Democratic Party, as well as the pro-abortion movement, relies on its supporters being misinformed or uneducated on these issues for the party to have traction.
Completely, it not only tells people what they want to hear, but it also creates that want, or the sense of a need to be affirmed in the lie, all within itself. The truth of why Roe existed was to shield a doctor from prosecution when committing an atrocity that they themselves likely wouldn't consider to be murder. However, in reality, it absolutely is.
Yeah, and that legal prosecution was indeed what was truly justice in this case, to anyone who would care to look to reality for the knowledge of things like this.
And because of this shield from prosecution, the doctors are now starting to feel worried now that Roe versus Wade was overturned.
As they should be, but they are most likely worried about the wrong thing.
They are worried about being prosecuted for doing their jobs and fall for the trap that abortion is healthcare. What they should be worried about is the legal consequences for committing murder.
The state's obligation to care for the members of its people who cannot speak for themselves, not being extended to protecting the unborn, is a case of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Someone has told these people their own beliefs so many times that they don't even see the holes in their logic anymore. And they're not even seeking out accurate information because they think they have it all figured out. This bias is so dangerous in cases like this because they are gambling with someone's life. The law not recognizing fetal personhood is extremely unjust and wrong, as well as being scientifically inaccurate.
When political figures push for laws that support their own untrue beliefs that push for a support of scientific inaccuracies, it opens the door for justice to be interpreted as whatever they're not fact-checked. And very largely inaccurate belief happens to be.
They say they are concerned about the laws states have been passing in terms of the ones that are pro-life. However, this demonstrates a direct lack of concern or literacy in the real science of the issue. Not being allowed to kill someone is not harsh, or a so-called taking of rights, because the right of someone to not be murdered in a case of someone being lied to, that it is the only option, should be common sense.
But it is not, because people have not been widely educated enough on what the actual reality is. That really stems from someone wrongfully taking all the talks in politics about this, as if they were a biology textbook. And they really don't see the injustice in it because they were not told by their favorite politician or news personality that they should see injustice.
This core of too much trust in the media is very dangerous, and even deadly when it comes to this issue in particular. Let's discuss one of the largest talking points on the pro-choice side of this, the right to privacy.
It is not truly about someone's right to privacy any more than a Nazi in the 1940s had a right to be left alone to conduct their genocidal murders without opposition from anyone who didn't agree.
This is honestly about telling a lie so many times that people don't even know what is real anymore.
And, because they don't know what's real, they now call the one who has actually looked at the genuine truth as the one who is intolerant.
This truly feels to the pro-choice side that they have the moral high ground, but they themselves have likely been lied to, primarily by people who haven't actually made any effort to educate themselves.
And this lapse in education comes from people who don't want to be told they're wrong, so they intentionally don't seek the education.
Thank you for getting to the studio today, Cassidy.
Thanks, Amanda, and thank you all for joining us on The Amanda Anderson Show. As always, you can tune in on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. And follow us on Truth Social, X, Facebook, and Instagram at Amanda Anderson PL, or, depending on the social platform, at Amanda Anson PL and Amanda Anderson Show on Facebook. For more information, go to our website at peelnonprofit.wixsite.com/Amanda Anderson Show. Have a great day.
This podcast is for educational and commentary purposes only. We utilize clips from news outlets and public figures under the Fair Use Doctrine to foster public discourse on matters of legitimate public concern. This program is not authorized by any candidate or political committee. The use of third-party media is transformative and does not imply an endorsement or a commercial partnership. Views expressed are solely those of the hosts and do not constitute legal or medical advice. While we strive for scientific and factual accuracy, we recognize that the application of this information to public policy is a matter of intense political debate. Content is presented for educational purposes and should not be construed as medical or legal advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult primary sources and professional experts to form their own conclusions.